On this Friday night, after nearly 2 years on the sidelines, Barack Obama has stormed back into the game. In an hour-long speech, he took off the gloves, calling out the very man who replaced him. But we'll tell you why it could actually end up giving Republicans a boost.
Also tonight, Serena Williams calling Kaepernick and the firestorm over Nike's new direction. Our pop culture panelists around the table ready with their take on that and much more. And we'll have some cool country music. This is The National.
In an astonishing break with presidential tradition, Barack Obama delivered a blunt broadside to President Trump. While accepting an award at the University of Illinois, he accused the Republican Party of betraying its soul and condemned Donald Trump as a demagogue and a threat to democracy. Keith Bogue looks at the scathing attack and whether there might be unintended consequences.
Hello, Illinois.
Illinois, the state where Barack Obama launched his political career, seems like the natural place for him to suit up for the home stretch of the midterm election campaign. He professes that it's wise for past presidents to stay out of current politics, yet he says this is no time for that.
This is one of those pivotal moments when every one of us, as citizens of the United States, need to determine just who it is that we are.
What followed was an argument that civic disengagement, cynicism, real economic uncertainty, paranoia, and other things had created an opening for the politics of fear and demagoguery.
It did not start with Donald Trump. He is a symptom, not the cause.
The Republican Party has lost its way, he said. It's become a tool of billionaires, undermining voting rights, embracing conspiracy theories, attacking science, attacking the free press, and even the justice system.
It's not conservative. It sure isn't normal. It's radical. It's a vision that says the protection of our power and those who back us is all that matters, even when it hurts the country.
But there were moments when there was no doubt that his specific target was the president.
We don't target certain groups of people based on what they look like or how they pray. We are Americans. We're supposed to stand up to bullies, not follow them. We're supposed to stand up to discrimination. And we're sure as heck supposed to stand up clearly and unequivocally to Nazi sympathizers.
And he had something to say about this. The sensational anonymous New York Times op-ed piece, supposedly by a senior administration official, declaring that a resistance movement had grown up around Trump to thwart parts of his agenda and prevent him from indulging his worst instincts.
The claim that everything will turn out okay because there are people inside the White House who secretly aren't following the president's orders, that is not a check. I'm being serious here. That's not how our democracy is supposed to work. These people aren't elected. They're not accountable.
It was a blistering speech that characterized Trump as a threat to democracy. Trump was arriving in Fargo, North Dakota at about the time Obama was speaking, but he later claimed this.
I'm sorry, I watched it, but I fell asleep.
It was a joke he didn't expect would be believed, Andrew, because he went on to accuse Obama of using his speech to try to take credit for what Trump called this incredible thing that's happening to the country. Presumably, he means the economic recovery, which actually really did begin under Obama.
Right. So Keith, overall, is this a sign of what's to come? Are we going to be hearing more from Obama?
Apparently we are. There's a tour plan that will take Obama to some of the places the Democrats think are crucial for them to take seats from Republicans.
But there's an interesting dynamic there, right? I mean, might Obama's approach cut two ways?
Well, I think that's a good question. Obama is very popular in many parts of the country, but I've been talking to Democrats for a year now about how they intend to take back the House, and what I've consistently heard from them is that if they want to flip seats in Republican districts, they have to avoid antagonizing Republican voters by making their campaigns all about Trump. And Obama's speech today sounded like exactly the kind of thing that only makes Republicans more tribal.
Okay, Keith Bogue in Washington, thanks very much.
Thank you.
So Americans will be hearing sharply contrasting visions of their country in the next 60 days of campaigning. And there are reasons for both Democrats and Republicans to be hopeful about going into the election. Midterms are almost always bad for the party of the sitting president, typically costing seats in Congress. Democrats lost 69 under Obama in 2010.
When you win the presidency, for some reason, you always end up losing the House, losing the Senate.
One reason for that is that after 2 years in office, presidents do tend to become less popular. And Trump's approval rating is the lowest of any president since the 40s.
I don't know what the NFL
But Republicans also have reasons to be
Honestly,
optimistic.
I don't know.
For one thing, its supporters tend to be older, whiter, and more conservative, a demographic that votes. Plus, with the U.S. economy humming along and the unemployment rate at a near 18-year low, there's less incentive to go angrily to the polls. But for all those traditional midterm factors, let's not forget, Donald Trump is not a traditional president, and this is not a traditional presidency. Consider this year's backdrop: the Mueller investigation, a stream of incendiary tell-all books, and this week's New York Times op-ed. Voters will have their say November 6th.
Here's a look at what else we're working on. Tesla's stocks are dropping, executives are leaving, and its superstar CEO, Elon Musk, is smoking pot live on YouTube. What's really going on?
And it was an unusual back-to-school message at the University of Manitoba, an apology and an admission that multiple faculty and staff are under investigation.
First, though, the growing fear in Syria tonight that millions there could be in imminent danger. Passionate scenes of protest in Syria's Idlib province today after regional powers failed to agree on a ceasefire to prevent a Syrian government offensive. But along with their defiance, people in Idlib are also afraid. And there's good reason for that fear. The country's leader, Bashar al-Assad, and his Russian allies seem to be eager to attack. Let's show you the situation in Syria. As you can see, most of the country is firmly back in government hands, with some exceptions, including this Kurdish-controlled territory here. But this is what Assad has his eyes on, Idlib. The last big pocket of rebel strength, crushing it would greatly help Assad reassert total control. Thomas Dagg looks at how people there are preparing for the worst.
Training for the fight of their lives. Anti-Assad forces in Idlib, manning guns for the expected offensive and digging trenches for cover. Russia is back at it, bombing those it considers terrorists in Syria. With tens of thousands of rebel fighters there, it's the only major opposition enclave left. Civilians are preparing for the worst. Some leaving supplies in bomb shelters, others preparing their own makeshift gas masks. People are scared, he says. Everyone knows Russia and the Syrian president will hit us with chemical weapons. 3 million call this province home. Half wound up here by fleeing violence elsewhere in the country. Many now live in Idlib's sprawling refugee camps, a situation so precarious the UN Security Council called an emergency meeting.
We are all terribly concerned. They are all ingredients that exist for a perfect storm.
The real power brokers weren't in New York, but in Tehran. The presidents of Russia and Iran support the Assad regime, but their Turkish counterpart doesn't want more refugees pouring across the border, so he's demanding a ceasefire. Assad's biggest backer made no such promise. Vladimir Putin told terrorists to have enough common sense to stop their resistance. Assad's allies, Russia and Iran, may control the fate of millions, but they see no use in a compromise. Each seeks an endgame to suit his own interests.
The parties that are willing to dedicate muscle, force, to force a political outcome tend to come on the top. Russia can no longer be ignored as a global power.
Diplomatic debates don't matter much in Idlib now, where the future may only be counted in days. There's nowhere left to flee and little hope to go around. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, London.
As you heard Thomas mention, the possible use of chemical weapons, that remains a serious fear. The Assad regime is believed to have used them several times throughout the war, but has never admitted it. The newly appointed U.S. envoy for Syria says there is evidence that Syria is preparing to use chemical weapons in Idlib.
Okay, let's bring things back home now and to a developing story in Winnipeg. Students at the University of Manitoba received an unusual welcome back this week, an apology. Several staff members are facing serious allegations, including sexual assault, and the school is promising to make changes. But as Cameron McIntosh reports, some students are still on edge.
The first week back, settling into a new school year at the University of Manitoba with some unsettling news.
Because I get an email? Yeah.
Kaja Bobie and her friends are a little shaken by allegations against staff here, including sexual assault.
I would want to know if my professors have allegations. I wouldn't really feel comfortable going to office hours.
The university confirms 5 staff members are under investigation, 2 involving sexual assault, 1 sexual harassment, and 2 non-sexual human rights complaints. What it didn't say is who's still on the job, leaving many students to speculate about their safety. Today, the university clarified that.
I can confirm that none of the individuals who are currently being investigated for sexual assault are on campus, so they don't have any contact with students.
I'm here to apologize to students who've experienced such inappropriate behavior.
That apology from the university president comes with a promise to make changes. Last year, an associate dean of medicine lost his medical license for 6 months after making advances on male students. The university also appeared to give a recommendation to a former music professor who quit amid allegations of sexual harassment. Now, harassment and assault policies are all under third-party review.
What we're going to ask the investigators to do is to conduct a very wide and necessarily deep investigation of everything and give us advice.
It is extremely clear that the university was negligent in the past.
The student union president says it's all long overdue and not enough. He's pushing for a full-time sexual violence support center.
We want to come to campus every day hoping that our campus is safe.
Back between classes, Bobbier says she does feel safe here, but this does rattle her faith.
That's a little uneasy to me just because here I am a student, you know, you stay late or you go to office hours and you think it's a safe place.
Right now, any student with a complaint is being urged to come forward. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
It was a chaotic day for Tesla. The company's shares dropped as much as 10% this morning. 2 senior executives announced they were walking away. And Elon Musk's latest behavior can't be helping after he was filmed smoking marijuana and drinking whiskey during an appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast.
I mean, it's legal, right?
It's totally legal.
Okay.
How does that work? Do people get upset at you if you do certain things? There's tobacco and marijuana in there. That's all it is.
I mean, alcohol is a drug. It's been grandfathered in.
Well, it's not just a drug. It's a drug that gets a bad rap. Because if you just have a little, it's great.
Fine.
You getting text messages from chicks?
No. I'm getting text messages from friends saying, "What the hell are you doing smoking weed?" I'm not a regular smoker of weed.
How often do you smoke it?
Almost never.
Mm.
I mean, I don't actually notice any effect.
Now, if you don't already know, Rogan is not a journalist. He's known for rambling conversations that typically last around 3 hours. He and Musk jumped from artificial intelligence to flame-throwing. So Musk knew what he was getting into, but as Salima Shivji explains, Tesla stakeholders might need an explanation.
At times, a CEO who's on the ball and in charge, but at others, especially lately, Elon Musk is erratic and a little bizarre.
There's tobacco and marijuana in there.
This is just the latest display to cause panic in the hearts of Tesla shareholders. The public toke that comes at the same time the company's chief accounting officer announced he's leaving, only a month into the job. A few weeks ago, there was this tweet, a flirtation with taking Tesla private that forced the company to halt trading. Musk later had to backtrack. And a few months before that, this abrupt answer.
Next. Boring bonehead questions are not cool. Next.
And some say with shares down dramatically in the last 5 weeks, his charisma will only take him so far.
If I'm a shareholder in the company, it'd be fine if he's the technology officer, but I can't have him running the company and doing this. And I suspect the board is going to try to find a way to replace him.
That likely won't go over well with Musk, but that's the risk. for a company so reliant on a larger-than-life leader who becomes the brand. The same worry when Apple founder Steve Jobs was diagnosed with cancer, or when Lululemon founder Chip Wilson had to step back after controversial comments. Yet both companies flourished.
When the CEO steps aside, lets a new person come in who brings that instant credibility, say a car industry type person who can bring that credibility, all can be smooth sailing. In fact, the company can be stronger on the other side of it.
Plus, Tesla is blessed with a devoted fan base.
I say, as a Tesla owner and as a business owner, who cares? We might sound like cult members, but anybody that's involved with Tesla thinks Elon Musk is a genius.
He's looking at the bigger picture, not this rough patch that could be over soon, as long as the company focuses on delivering on its promises. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Toronto.
And we are live tonight on The National and keeping tabs on a number of developing stories. One of them involves prison time for one of President Donald Trump's former campaign aides.
Congratulations, you look great in orange.
That was George Papadopoulos in Washington today, just before he was handed 14 days behind bars. His crime? Lying to the FBI about his contact with Russia before the election. He was charged as part of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation.
We are certainly making very good progress at understanding each other. The atmosphere is constructive and productive.
That was Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister in Washington today, sounding optimistic on NAFTA talks, but she's now returning home with no deal in hand yet. Sources tell CBC News that progress at the negotiating table has been slow, one of the key issues being milk. The U.S. wants Canada to open up its dairy market. And the Canadian military has set out some new rules ahead of recreational marijuana becoming legal in this country. Under a policy made public today, members of the military will be banned from using it within 8 hours of starting a shift. For those who handle weapons or are involved in firefighting or medical response, you need to be marijuana-free for a full 24 hours before working, and members on active operations and during training, a complete ban on recreational marijuana altogether.
We have a lot more ahead tonight on The National. Nike's new ad with Colin Kaepernick has certainly touched a nerve in the U.S. Some say it's inspirational, others inappropriate. We'll go in depth with the National Pop panel.
And Oxford, Nova Scotia, usually known for its tiny blueberries, but lately it's the massive sinkhole that has people flocking to the small town. We'll take you there.
First, though, look at the younger, cooler, changing face of country music.
Baby, lay on back and relax. Kick your pretty feet up on my dash.
I think the reason that country music has lost that stigma of not being the cool genre to listen to is because the artists have gotten younger.
We got nothing but time. Go ahead and hate me if you want to. Tell everybody that I did you wrong.
Well, that is Canadian country singer Megan Patrick. She's from Ontario, and she might have a big night ahead this Sunday. The Canadian Country Music Association Awards are happening in Hamilton, and Patrick's up for 3 prizes. Video of the Year for this song, The Bad Guy, Female Artist of the Year, and Album of the Year. And country music itself, it's come a long way too, even seeing a recent bump in popularity. Consider some of these recent big-name collaborations. We saw Justin Timberlake take the stage with Chris Stapleton, Beyonce belting it out with the Dixie Chicks. 2 genres you might never have thought to cross over, but country music's fan base does seem to be getting younger. So Deanna Sumanak-Johnson headed out to a country music festival just outside Toronto to find out what has so many more people tuning in.
Baby, lay on back and relax. Kick your pretty feet up on my dash.
One of summer's biggest hits is a collaboration between country band Florida Georgia Line and pop star BB Rexha. Brett Kissel was the first country singer to headline the iHeartRadio Much Music Video Awards. Country is officially cool, but that's something these young fans at Boots and Hearts Festival already know.
Florida Georgia Line, their music is bomb. It's so good. Dallas Smith, Dallas Smith, Dallas Smith.
According to the Country Music Association, a Nashville organization dedicated to expanding country's reach, the number of 18 to 24-year-olds who listen to the genre has increased by 54% in the last decade. And the senior editor of country for Rolling Stone magazine thinks he knows why.
I think the reason that country music has lost that stigma of not being the cool genre to listen to is because the artists have gotten younger. You're looking at bands like Florida Georgia Line, and even go all the way back to Taylor Swift when she was still in country music. It really kind of spoke to a younger audience.
Some of these artists are Canadian, like 24-year-old BC-born Madeleine Merlot. A month after her Boots and Hearts gig, she was invited to play a coveted show at Whiskey Jam in Nashville.
The organizer of it found me kind of organically on Spotify and asked me to come. What's up, Whiskey Jam?
Merlot also owes at least a part of her fan following to the streaming platforms, once an unthinkable feat for country music, whose fans have been traditionally reluctant to embrace new technologies.
Young people can have a little bit of everything all at once and listen to rock and pop and rap and country all together, and they're creating their own playlists.
While it may be getting younger and cooler, country is not exactly the voice of political dissent. Its artists are often criticized for staying mum on issues like gun control, even after last year's shooting at a Las Vegas country concert that left 58 people dead.
I think that criticism of country being too apolitical is justified. You know, whether it was Merle Haggard or Johnny Cash. I mean, along with Christopherson, Willie Nelson, none of those names there ever were afraid of being political or stirring up the mud, so to speak.
But if you ask the fans, country's happy-go-lucky message is a big part of the appeal.
And right now, like, there is a lot of negative things in the world, so like it is nice to have something positive to bond around and just have fun.
Good vibes and teen idol stars that have helped Cowboy Boots kick up some fresh dust. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Oro-Medonte, Ontario.
We have a lot more ahead tonight. From Nike's controversial new campaign to the reaction to a former TV star's job. The National's Pop panel is here with some interesting insights into topics a lot of us have been talking about.
First, though, a reminder about a special series you'll see here Sunday nights on The National. Seen and Heard tells intimate stories of young Canadians facing life-changing circumstances. This week, you'll meet Lucas Charlie Rose, who founded Canada's first all-trans record label. Here's a preview.
I'm a transgender. Put your hands up. Put your hands up. Put your hands up.
I want to be recognized as a human, and I want people like me to be recognized as humans too.
I'm a transgender.
To have people see me and just, not look at me like I'm a freak or I'm dangerous or I'm all these things. Like, no, I want people to see me for me. Like, I'm just somebody who's trying to live life and survive and see my people do it too.
Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. No, that's not Descartes. Those words were spoken by former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick in Nike's newest ad campaign.
Nike got everybody talking by choosing Kaepernick to be its latest spokesperson. Some Americans weren't too pleased about his decision to kneel during the U.S. national anthem. So naturally, a bunch of them set to burning their Nike gear and posting videos online.
This was the week when Nike figured out how to do political advertising, and I think it's actually really important. It's virtue as a long-term marketing strategy, and that sounds odd, but it's also going to be inevitable going forward, that this is the way companies are going to work.
I'm Sarah Bosveld, senior writer for Chatelaine.
I'm Donovan Bennett, host and staff writer at Sportsnet.
I'm Stephen Marsh, random Toronto writer.
Why can't Kaepernick have money and morals at the same time? Donald Trump wasn't a fan of the message, but sorry, Donald, that message wasn't for you. You're not the target audience.
Ironically, I find this kind of encouraging because what Nike is the smart money. And the smart money has put its bet behind progressive politics and diversity. And that's actually encouraging.
A big multinational corporation profiting off of this polarized political landscape? Not sure how I feel about that.
So there are a few topics we're going to get into, but let's start with Colin Kaepernick, and let's start about your, I don't know if it's ambivalence, but you're just kind of unsure how you feel.
Yeah, I think it's great that we're seeing Colin Kaepernick really stand up for his values and seeing a lot of support for him in that way. But to have a massive company that makes a lot of money, you know, really kind of profit at the end of the day from his image and his message and his storyline at a time when things are so politically tense, you know, I see why they're doing it. They, you know, they see an opportunity there to make some good money from this politics. But I just think it's, you know, I really hope that he's getting a lot out of it. And I think he is, but at the top, there's these like rich white guys who are making all the money off of this, you know, polarized environment. And I'm not sure that that's
a couple of things I would maybe gently challenge you on, though.
Sure, go for it.
And one of them is whether Nike actually will make money on this. Apparently, you know, their early online sales indications are that it's up. The share price early on had dropped, but I don't know. Do you think this is going to be a money-making move for Nike?
I think in the long run it will, and they're playing the long game, if you will, because they're not even worried about 30-year-olds. They're selling shoes to people who are going to be buying them for the next 30 years. And I love you. Couldn't disagree more.
I love you too, Donovan. What is it?
Because, I mean...
Where's the love for me?
Nike, well, I'll get there, Nike, when you agree with me, I'll love you. Nike is a big company. They made $36 billion last year. They don't need Colin Kaepernick. In fact, in this relationship, it's the opposite. Colin Kaepernick needs us because they're having this conversation happening on the national, which gives them both a platform. And would it be better if a smaller company that didn't make as much money endorsed Colin Kaepernick? Because Adidas and Puma were rumored to be interested if Colin's contract elapsed. And Nike said, well, it's not going to. And they funded him even though he hasn't played a game.
Made some really bold moves, I think.
The interesting thing about $36 billion is you always want more. Like, it's never like you get to $36 billion, you're like, yeah, we got enough. Like, I mean, it's a long-term strategy here, right? Yeah. Like, what they're betting on is that this will pay dividends, not next week. The share price this week is irrelevant.
A whole generation.
Yeah, a whole generation. The average football player is 16, the average basketball player is 16. They know, because they've done their research, because they're the smart money, what the politics of those people are. They also know how invested young people are in politics. And so their play is for them, and it's brilliant. I mean, I'm pretty cynical. Like, to me, it is... What's interesting about this is that it's a fascinating moment in the history of advertising.
Yeah. So let me remind you, though, that Coke thought the new Coke was going to actually sell, all right? And Target thought opening up stores across Canada was a good idea. Like, sometimes companies make mistakes, but you guys all seem to feel that Nike, from a business standpoint anyway, has made the right decision.
Well, look at the campaign, right? It's Just Do It, and it's the 30th anniversary of it, and when you go back to the beginning of it, Just Do It was a rebellious campaign. It was Michael Jordan wearing shoes with colors that he wasn't supposed to wear on the court, and they were paying his fines. Fast forward 30 years, and they're no longer the small, rebellious company. They're the leader. So they're captivating that rebellious spirit with a new audience.
The other thing, we've seen so many companies try to do this politics stuff and just fall right on their faces, like Pepsi with the Kendall Jenner ad, which is like the worst example ever. That's the one where she's in a crowd randomly holding signs that have no political content and then makes peace with a police officer through a Pepsi. You know, Nike is the opposite of that. Nike has actually figured out how to do this. And the fact that we live in such a politicized age, I mean, we're a pop culture panel here, we're talking about police brutality right away. Like that they've recognized what world they're living in, and they figured out how to manipulate it. So I definitely think it's a smart business decision.
And I'm going to ask you a question in a second, Sarah, but the president, President Trump, has weighed in on this repeatedly, including a tweet this morning where he says, what was Nike thinking? You know, there are people who support President Trump.
Absolutely.
There are people who are burning their Nikes and distributing that on social media. Is there a danger here for a corporate logo to evoke that kind of anger, at least among some percentage of people?
Well, what I'm saying is that they're seeing they don't need that audience really. We just discussed that it's the more millennial, social justice, socially conscious people, but they also capitalize on and benefit from that attention that they get from this certain cohort of people who are happy to burn Nikes they've already paid for. So Nike's like, I already have your money, so I don't know what the problem is, and inflaming that tension, because look at how many people would have seen that tweet from Donald Trump. Look how many people, are talking about this for, the first tweet came out Monday. It's Friday now, and I think, I think Nike obviously did its research and placed its bets and said, look, we don't need your money, bigoted people of America, if they see them that way. But that's why I am a little concerned that it is choosing really one path. And I am, kind of scared about sort of what's happening if we let polarization go too far. And now that we're seeing Nike willingly be part of this one side of the polarized environment, like what cost does that come to for all of us as a society?
Although there is more to talk about on this, I do want to move on to another topic, and that is something that, a term I hadn't heard really until this week, job shaming, right? And this is all about Jeffrey Owens, who I did not know by name, but I remember who he is when people point out that he was one of the actors on the Cosby sitcom. He was bagging groceries at Trader Joe's. Somebody recognized him, took a picture of him, and some media picked it up, and basically the theme was, how sad is this? How far has this guy fallen? And then there was a backlash to that from people saying, what are you talking about? He's an actor who's not a multimillionaire, who's doing something to make money.
Yeah, this story really upsets me. And for a couple reasons. One, if there's a former Cosby actor that we should be shaming, it shouldn't be Jeffrey Owens.
There is one.
Yeah, honestly. Number one. And number two, not only did she take the photo, and it'd be one thing if, she put it on her social media, so on and so forth, she sent it to the Daily Mail. So she sent a message basically saying, this is someone doing work that I feel is shameful. He was an actor and looks like he's not. I'm going to publicly shame him. And the fact that, Jeffrey Owens is going to be okay. Nicki Minaj sent him $25,000.
Although he's had to leave his job. He had to leave his job at Trader Joe, which is the saddest thing.
Right, but he chose to leave his job.
He chose to leave his job. They didn't make him leave. But,
Tyler Perry has offered him a role, and I actually don't like the fact that he's getting pity roles, but in the long run, he's going to be okay.
But you know what? Actors, I think a lot of unemployed actors would
certainly
roles,
take them. Yeah. But if I'm a worker at Trader Joe's and the conversation is how bad it is to work there, and not the fact that actually Trader Joe's gives great health benefits, and actors are choosing to work there on the sides. Any work that's honest work is good work, and I think that's why it upset me.
I want to talk to you guys about that in a moment, but let's hear from him, because he weighed in on this and is quite eloquent, not surprisingly.
A certain job might pay more, it might have better benefits, it might look better on paper, but that essentially one kind of work is not better, superior than another kind of work, and that we reevaluate that whole idea and we start just honoring the dignity of work and respecting the dignity of the working person.
So, an eloquent point
Absolutely.
that he makes.
I love that message because I think we run into this a lot. Certainly the service industry. My sister's had been a server for a long time. She'd always get asked, well, what do you do? What's your other gig? Or, are you a student? Like, there must be some other goal or reason that you're doing this job. And I just think that, highlighting that people should be able to be respected and have a lot of dignity in the work that they choose to do. I think that's a really important message. But, obviously there are larger things that we could say about the gig economy and, the precariousness of work. But I think socially, if we do a better job of respecting people's lives, individual lives, and not treating them like public property, as I think he had been treated in this circumstance, because that's how also we see actors. If they're on TV, all of a sudden they're public property. I don't know if you ever have that experience walking down the street, someone says, oh, you're on TV, like, come here,
I crave that.
Yeah, there could be a difference there. But I really like his message, and I think it's important that he's taken this opportunity to share it.
Totally. Working actors, that's why they call them that. If you're part of the creative professions, I'm a novelist, everyone who is in a creative profession is only temporarily not at Trader Joe's. Right? It's only just like you've had a little bit of luck, so you're not at Trader Joe's right now. And I think you have to, everyone should respect, that's part of being a creative person. That's part of the courage of being a creative person, is figuring out that you have to have these jobs, that you have to do this kind of work in order to pursue your dreams to be an actor, in order to pursue your dreams to do anything great. So yeah, there's the weird thing about hating people who work at Trader Joe's, which is just bizarre in itself. But then there's also the thing where it's like, well, what do you think the life of actors is like?
We have maybe 30 seconds left for each of you to give us a recommendation of one thing we must watch, see, or do over the next week or so. And I'll start with you.
Well, I just last night watched the finale of Sharp Objects. It's an HBO crime thriller about a reporter who goes back to her hometown, a woman who's a reporter, and lives with her family. She's chasing the story of 2 teenage girls who've been murdered, and it is harrowing, and it has a lot to say about, you know, what women are capable of, turning that idea on its head. It's a screenplay based on a book by Gillian Flynn, who wrote Gone Girl, and who's always very good at sort of surprising us. And I can't get this finale out of my head.
Wow.
And I think you should all check it out. It's really good.
Donovan?
Well, maybe because I have the Kaepernick conversation in my head, I'll give you 2 based off of LeBron James. His show, The Shop, on HBO. It's a candid conversation with a bunch of his friends, celebrities, about pop culture, race, and he's doing a great job of using his platform to have important conversations like this. Also, his shoe, the LeBron 16, it's designed by women of color. He's partnered with the Health Fashion Row, a group that gives women of color an opportunity to start their fashion businesses. It's the first shoe of his kind, produced all by women. I think it's a great message. He says that women of color are, you know, among the strongest people on earth, and I think I agree.
Nice.
It's going to reveal how bad a person I am. We heard how good these guys are.
As if that's only been revealed.
Yeah, it's hard to follow
now.
that. The Predator. Predator is what I'm looking forward to, the reboot of the 1980s aliens in Vietnam, basically, movie. Cannot wait. Press screening on Monday. It's
do you say that to be mischievous, or do you actually,
I'm super excited by it.
Are,
like, for sure. Okay. I mean, I'm excited about it the way, like, a big bowl of Cheetos at home
would be excited.
It's exciting to me. You know, like,
that is a great idea.
Yeah,
I'm going to go for some.
The perfect place to end. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Except now I'm hungry. Up next on The National, we'll take you to Oxford, Nova Scotia, which happens to be Canada's blueberry capital. But this summer, the town has a new claim to fame.
Somebody told me this happened. I said, no, that's a gross exaggeration, but it wasn't an exaggeration. It just was gone.
But first, a preview of an interview you'll see here Sunday night. Michael Avenatti, attorney for Stormy Daniels and a fiercely vocal opponent of the U.S. president. Rosie sat down with him recently to talk about 2020 and whether he's serious about taking a run at Donald Trump.
Do you think that you could still take him on, given the fact that he has this reputation? Love him or hate him?
Absolutely. I mean, do you think Donald Trump wants to face me on a debate stage? I don't think so. I think the dichotomy between me and Donald Trump on a debate stage would be shocking, frankly. There's no doubt in my view that I have the presence to do that. And I think that he would not, does not, want to face someone like me in the general election.
Will you stay just a little while?
Tonight on The National, fans are mourning the death of American rap and hip-hop star Mac Miller. The 26-year-old died today, reportedly at his home in California. Now, his family isn't providing any detail about how it happened, but according to U.S. media, it was an apparent drug overdose. Miller, whose real name was Malcolm McCormick, had been open about his struggles with substance abuse. In Northern California tonight, a rapidly growing wildfire has forced the closure of a major highway, the I-5, for the entire weekend. The Delta Fire erupted Wednesday, and it's since scorched nearly 100 square kilometers of land. It's burning near the area where 8 people were killed and more than 1,000 homes destroyed by the Carr Fire earlier this summer. Meanwhile, some better news for crews fighting wildfires in British Columbia. Today, the government ended its province-wide state of emergency. Officials say the cooler weather has helped and firefighters are making progress, but there's still nearly 500 wildfires burning now and almost 2,000 people under evacuation orders. Okay, to the other end of the country now. Oxford, Nova Scotia is known as the wild blueberry capital of Canada. There's even a giant statue of a blueberry at the edge of town, but these days there's a sinkhole across the street that's so big you could put that giant blueberry right in it. And so maybe it shouldn't be so surprising that sinkhole is capturing a fan base of its own. Our Kayla Hounsell reports on the tourist spectacle that's becoming an ever-expanding problem itself.
One after another, after another, after another, they arrive at the edge of the hole. Everyone wants a photo.
And I've got friends that live out west that were sending me pictures of this, that live out in Alberta.
Well, it's amazing. It's just amazing. I just can't understand, you know, like Mother Nature.
What started the size of a gopher hole has turned into this. It now measures 32 by 38 meters, swallowing picnic tables and full-grown trees.
Somebody told me this happened. I said, no, that's a gross exaggeration, but it wasn't an exaggeration. It just was gone. And just like it was flushed down the toilet. And it was about 30 feet high.
Sinkholes are not uncommon in the area, but the chance to watch as one develops is.
Gypsum is a soft mineral. It can dissolve over a long period of time with groundwater flow and surface runoff as well.
Geologists are also monitoring activity around the hole. New cracks are popping up every day. They're getting deeper and wider. The colors indicating on which day the crack was first noticed. This one hasn't been color-coded yet. It just popped up today.
These things are unpredictable, and until we know more of what's going on beneath our feet, we can't estimate what the final size could be.
The Oxford sinkhole is getting so much attention, it even has its own Twitter handle. But there have also been multiple fender benders caused by drivers watching the sinkhole instead of the road. And the area's emergency management coordinator says if it keeps growing, they might have to close the highway, shut off power, and evacuate homes.
The real emotional story here is the Oxford Lions Club. The blood, sweat, and tears and the finances that they put into not only this property, but into this community is being lost. There's heartbreak here.
Heartbreak and curiosity from those who just can't help but watch to see what might happen next. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Oxford, Nova Scotia.
The Nationals moment of the day is next, and tonight it's a dream come true for a Canadian basketball legend. First, though, a reminder to subscribe to our daily newsletter. The National Today takes you inside our journalism. It comes out every afternoon. We also like to highlight some of the stories you may have missed. And today, it was a controversial plan in Barcelona to lease out tiny living pods to that city's cash-strapped young workers. You can see it at cbcnews.ca/The National. It has been a few years since Steve Nash has worn a Suns jersey, and 3 since he retired from the court as a Laker. But today he enjoyed one more day of glory. Nash really was the greatest Canadian to ever play pro basketball, and today he was welcomed into the hall that's named after another Canadian, the one who invented the game. And all of this is our moment of the day.
With this group, this is a dream team for me, so to be a part of it is an incredible honor.
This is Steve Nash.
Steve Nash changed teams from Phoenix to Dallas. Back to Phoenix, then a short final chapter in Los Angeles. Along the way, he changed his hairstyle from surfer dude to that short back and sides, but until a series of injuries ended his career, he just kept improving.
You know, I just try to enjoy every day. I try to come in and work as hard as I can today to play well, and I try not to think about, you know, a ticking clock.
He defied conventional NBA wisdom that taller players last longer, that skills diminish with age, playing 19 seasons where the average is 5 and delivering his most brilliant after he turned 30. But longevity alone doesn't get you to the hall. A transcendent skill or lasting impact does, and Nash had both. He was a wizard with the ball. As a shooter for sure, but above all, as a passer. And that's where he changed the NBA, orchestrating a free-flowing offensive game, finding his teammates for easy scores. It's how he ended up with the 3rd most assists in history, being named an All-Star 8 times, earning the Most Valuable Player award 2 years in a row. His Canadian roots are deep, playing for, now managing the national team, earning a star on Canada's Walk of Fame, a Governor General's Award, and now basketball's Hall of Fame. You know, Andrew, it was during the NHL lockout, I think 04-05, that I was looking for something to watch on TV, and he was about to win the first of his 2 MVP awards, and I just became such a huge fan. He's a fantastic player and so different from so many other players. Grew up in Victoria, British Columbia, went to one of the smaller schools, kind of a quiet guy in a cocky sport. He really defied a lot of stereotypes, but here he is now, heralded as one of the greatest ever in basketball.
Yeah, and I mean, and an eloquent guy. I mean, with the media, always thoughtful, which is something I appreciated as a journalist. I will say this, though. You know, I'm not an exceptionally tall person. I will freely admit this.
Neither of us is.
And I always found small comfort in the idea, no matter how far-flung, that if a short guy like Steve Nash can make it in the NBA, maybe I could make it. Except until the day I found out the bloody guy is 6'2", which is tall by anyone's standards, except, of course, if you are an NBA player.
But there's always esports, Andrew.
That's the other dream. I've still got that on the back burner. That is the National for this September 7th. Thanks for joining us. Happy Friday. Good night.
Good night.